be heard, there are no ears to hear, and there's nothing to talk about. Because no shape or beauty existed until the moment that he spoke. He could look up or down, to his right or left, and in the emptiness where the universe would soon stand, there was no one to contest him. Everything began in him, and he was it. We only have this record because he told us, and from this story comes every other one we have heard and told. His voice was a richer sound than you or I can imagine. It was the kind of voice that not only carries power and truth, but defines them. Let there be light, and there it was, and it was good. You could now see the water covering the shapeless mass ready to become our planet, as the spirit of the story writer moved above it. In 6 days, God called out of nothing our entire world. He lit the sun, placed the moon, mapped out the galaxies. He raised up continents and covered them in green, filling the sea and sky with fish and birds. After all earth was in its place, the voice said to himself, "Let's make man in our image." The spirit, the voice, and the image, in which man was designed from dust, are all three the same being. They interact and exist together as eternal God. So Adam and Eve were both uniquely created, gifted, and sent to reflect and spread God's image across the earth. From this point forward, you must understand all things that happen are part of God's story. God rules over it, and although he gives man choice, he already knows what will happen either way. Now here's where the story turns. Had it been you or me knowing what God knew, we would have never breathed into that man the breath of life or offered him our friendship, but God did. Now at some point, exactly when, I cannot say with certainty, God had also made many powerful spirit beings. Although not in his image, they were beautiful, talented, strong, and intelligent. The greatest and most beautiful of these spirits was Lucifer, who began to think thoughts that had never been thought before. They were foolish, and in the end, as you'll see, they were deadly as well. Lucifer was created to understand great mysteries and possess deep knowledge, but he had no wisdom, for wisdom begins when we fear and respect God, responding to his love. Lucifer did not. Through his influence, Lucifer began rebellion amongst God's spirits, like the opposite of light appearing in darkness. And so Lucifer, the proud, fell from heaven. Yet the earth and the garden were untouched. Adam and Eve remained perfect in their relationship as friends with God. In those days when the cool breeze of the afternoon blew in the garden, Adam, Eve, and God would spend time together. God had warned them not to eat from the one tree that would bring them death. In the middle of the garden stood that forbidden tree. Yet there was another tree of fruit with power. Instead of giving death like the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, this tree gave eternal life. Since God had created them for eternity, this tree was for their pleasure. Had there been only good trees, man could have never had a real relationship with God, because relationships are based on things like love and trust. One day Lucifer, who had by now several names, one of them being Angel of Light, for even fool's gold shines more than truth, and another Satan, for he was pure evil, appeared to Eve in the garden as a shining serpent. Eve was close to the forbidden tree. What Satan said next and what Adam and Eve did would change life on our planet forever. If all man's existence were defined by one moment, this was it. Has God really said you cannot eat the fruit of the garden? Satan asked. No, said Eve, we can eat of all the fruit, just not from the tree in the center. For the day we eat or touch it, we will die. You will not die, lied Satan. God knows if you eat it, your eyes will be opened and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. At this moment in God's story, both Eve and Adam made the decision to join Satan's rebellion. History has proven each of us would have done the same. Right then, man died somewhere inside. So man discovered a new and terrible feeling called shame. All choices that bring shame are connected, tied to the first one. They pledge allegiance to Lucifer, breaking friendship with God. A cruel wind blew in the garden as Adam and Eve hid from God. Covered in leaves, they tried to hide a nakedness they had never noticed, before choosing to love knowledge above loving and knowing Him. The same voice that called light from darkness called out their names again in the garden. To be afraid of that voice was to die while still breathing. God knows and sees all things, so it wasn't information He wanted, but an opportunity He offered when He said, Adam, where are you? For the God of the universe was seeking them because he loved them. Shifting blame instead of owning up is the nature of shame found in sin. So Eve blamed Satan and Adam blamed God. This is how our land was cursed because of Adam. Pain entered childbirth because of Eve, and evil permeated our planet at every level. Satan was sentenced by the same voice that brought all beauty into existence, and now shook the foundations of our universe, inserting death to what previously was eternal. Yet in this was a promise, in the curse of prophecy, and in God's question was a plan. Satan and man through the ages would contend until the coming of the deliverer, who would be wounded yet crush Satan's head. That deliverer is at the center of God's search and rescue plan for man. Every battle and every story, at times misunderstood by men, has had this promise and purpose behind it. The deliverer will come and restore what was lost. Lucifer's only thought is to delay his execution, turning God's creation against him. His weapons are not original, nothing new or real. Listen, he has only 3 traps, and they do not change. Trap 1. From God, Adam and Eve had received opportunity. All creation theirs to govern, all but one tree to enjoy. Satan is not a creator. He can only copy and pervert things. Where God offers opportunities through his love, Satan says, love the thing, not the one that gave it. So man's heart began to love himself with the things he was given. Trap 2. Adam was created for joy. He found this in his relationship with Eve and with God. Instead of loving others, Satan says, love pleasure itself and use others instead of serving them. Trap 3. Man was created in God's image, an ambassador across the world. Satan says, love yourself and be famous. Instead of lifting his name, lift yours. Then you will be as God. Remember these 3 traps. God's opportunities became the love of things. Relationships, the love of pleasure. And influence, the love of fame. Each person can succeed or fail by what they do with these. A thin line sets apart Satan's 3 traps from God's original design. Similar actions can be worlds apart. Intention divides one journey from another, as each one of our decisions spins a life spiral. It is in the nature of both failure and success to grow through momentum, either for good or evil. Opportunities seized, relationships built, and influence acquired spiral out into increasing circles. Into the great romance unfolds the story of hope, with wisdom found through joy and pain. This truth ties us all together. In life, you make an eternal impact, or you build a personal empire.